Hey friend, hey family. SoCal Kimmy here, and I'm having a really rough night. My pain is hitting about a 6 right now, but it's because I had restless leg syndrome all night long, and and I've been doing art. I'm actually working on my Alice in Wonderland. So that's what I've been working on. I still have the ability to still paint and do art. So that's one thing. I can't do jewelry as much because I lose the ability in my fingertips. So I'm waiting to hear from my doctor to get chromosome ejections in my neck so that it gets rid of the pain again. But yeah, I've been struggling and crying. And this is one of the realization that comes to I might lose the ability to walk. Today, I did okay. I was hitting threes and fours. And then tonight I'm hitting eights and nines. And I expected this because I did more than what I pushed myself a little bit more than what I wanted to. Like I did a little bit of yard work today and tried to water and I tried to walk and it was hurting. I was in I would say at the time of watering, I was probably about a 5 or 6, and I knew that was going to get worse. And then I was like, okay, I better go change my filter on my fish aquarium before it gets really bad. And then that's when it was started rising up. So, yeah, it's going to be a rough next couple days, but I'm going to try to push myself a little bit more. When I have restless leg syndrome, I just can't sit in bed because the pain gets so bad that I have to keep moving and moving and moving. If I sit still, then it throbs. It uh, does this like stabbing sensation and like these needles in my legs, which hurts like freaking like murder. There's times I want to cut off my leg so bad because the pain is intense. And that's when I have to take my nerve medicine because if I don't, the pain is just, it makes me cry. And I already just took nerve medicine just a few minutes ago. So my it's been on fire all day, but it's just so bad. So stay tuned for part 2 because this looks like it's going to be a part 2. Let's talk about my nerve experience, shall we? SoCal Kimmy here, and I want to say hello, my friends, hello, my family. And last night was rough. Kuna the top. Just one of those days. That's why I'm wearing these sweatshirts to remind me it's going to be okay. It's just one of those days. And yes, my little immatureness. Somebody says I will never grow up. And this is why I think that I have autism. I have 3 safe foods that I love. One is salmon. The second is Lay's barbecue chips. And the third one is fig Newton cookies. The cake. It's not a cookie, it's a cake. Yeah. Those are my 3 go-to foods. I've always make sure before I go out to eat with anybody that there's salmon there. If there's salmon there, I'm fine. If there's a lot of noise in places like Hell's Kitchen, I don't like going to Hell's Kitchen, like where we went to eat, because it's really noisy. I don't like a lot of noise. It just makes me on-centered and I feel very uncomfortable. I have the sense of smell, my nose. I don't like certain flower smells. My allergies get really bad. I get my asthma starts kicking in. It's really terrible. Another thing, I didn't start speaking until I was almost 7 years of age. When I was in elementary school, first, actually kindergarten, I was kicked out of kindergarten because I didn't speak and I couldn't get my colors right. Not joking. They held me back and I didn't get to first grade until I was almost 7 years of age and I still didn't speak correctly. Or 6, I think I was 6. almost 7. Yeah, it was just like not a good thing. So I was held back. But I did graduate when I was 18 years of age, and that was in 93. So I was born in 1974. So I think maybe I was never diagnosed as being having autism because they didn't have those tests. I am dyslexic. I do know that, but I did get diagnosed of having a learning disability. But I think that learning disability has to do with having autism. Another thing, too, I used to try to communicate with a teacher that would never let me go to the restroom because he couldn't understand what I was trying to say. So I used to urinate all over myself. So I always had to bring panties with me. And that's because I was trying to tell him I need to go to the restroom, but he never let me go because I could not pronunciate it. No shit. So, anywho, if he would just let me say bathroom or bath, then I would have been fine, but he never did that. It was just really cruel. Love you guys. And part 3 of why I think I have autism. And my family's not behind me on this, but I love to sing. I love musical instruments. I love art. I'm very artistic. I like to write things down, but I also don't like to write things down only if it has something to do with like scheduling or things like that. Um, I like to plan before I go somewhere so I know that I'm going to be comfortable where I'm at. I have a very strong sense of smell. I think I already said that. Like a dog. Like I could smell things like in food even before I eat them. It's like I have a dog's nose. It's really bad. I'm more closer to animals than I am people because I can relate to them better because I feel people don't really understand me. I did better with acting than because I feel like I mask myself very well. I'm not really good with emotion, especially when people die. I don't know how to relate on them saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry you lost somebody." It's like I don't know them, so I don't know how to feel how they should feel. And I learned that just recently. When my grandfather died, I was really emotional, really upset because I knew that that was the end. And I'm also 48 years of age, but at that time I was what, 40? So, I mean, this has been a real eye waker from TikTok, really woken up my eyes about maybe I am artistic, not artistic, has autism. I might have a high functioning autism, and it makes sense now more um, because of the fact that I'm very immature. I still have dolls. I still play with dolls. I made movies, and then some people said some rude things, so I stopped doing that. Not like playing dolls, like, but making them move and dance and do things, and just some of the things that people say to really hurt people's feelings. And I'm very, very sensitive to certain things. Um, I don't know. I think that I may have autism, and I'm not just saying that just to say it. I mean, I was diagnosed with a learning disability. But basically back in the 70s and 80s and 90s, they didn't have testing like they do now. And now I wonder if I should be tested to find out if I do have these things. I did have breakdowns at work, actually cry, and had to go home because of the perfume situation. She wouldn't stop wearing fucking perfume, and it was so bad that my nose would bleed, and then my eyes would swell, and my throat, and just thinking about it now, maybe I do have PTSD from it too.
With autism, usually when somebody thinks about somebody being autistic, they don't think of me. They think of somebody like Rain Man. And that's something that I also would like to change. An analogy the doctor who diagnosed me used that I really liked was you wouldn't consider somebody not overweight until they hit 1,000 pounds. They were 999 pounds, they're fine, but only overweight if they go over 1,000 pounds. The same goes for autism. You can't say somebody is autistic just if they're at the level of Rain Man. So now jumping into my top 10 autistic traits. Number 1, I have sensory issues. So basically my senses are kind of heightened. I am considered a highly sensitive person. It's an actual thing, look it up. But so for example, when I go to the movies, I need to wear earplugs, or else the movie is just too loud and I can't handle it. I usually need to wear sunglasses, or else I'm like squinting and making all kinds of weird terrible faces that probably embarrass my boyfriend because my eyes are so sensitive. Another example is my sense of smell. And my sense of smell is definitely the most debilitating of those sensory issues. For example, my family and I have been very blessed to be able to travel to Italy a lot throughout my whole life for my dad's business. And whenever we would go, we would get a rental car. And if one single cigarette, or even just one person who had smoked a cigarette and still had cigarette smoke on their person, sat in that car, I'd be able to smell it. No one else would, but I would be able to smell it. And I would make my poor parents walk all the way back to the car rental desk and ask for a new one, and repeat this process until we found one that didn't smell of smoke. Another sensory issue I have is with my sense of touch. So certain fabrics I can't handle. I need to have soft, baggy, loose, thin fabrics. I'm always dressed in big baggy clothes and t-shirts and sweatpants and slippers. I need to have socks on all the time. So, I usually look like a hobo a little bit. And I probably embarrass my poor family when they have to go out in public with me. But I just can't handle tight, restrictive, not stretchy, itchy clothing. I have to take the tags off of all my shirts, stuff like that. Another thing that's related and correlates to that is my sheets. I have to have jersey knit sheets on my bed. If you don't know what jersey knit sheets are, they're basically like t-shirt material. They're very stretchy, very soft. T-shirt like sheets, and I need to have those. Another thing with texture is the texture of certain foods. I'm a very, very picky eater, though I have gotten a lot better as I've gotten older, I'd like to say, but I'm just chicken in it, and I would eat all the vegetables and then put the chunky chicken in my mouth and go suck out all the flavor, and then put the piece of chicken right back on my high chair in a nice little neat pile. Moving on to number two is the fact that I deal with a lot of anxiety and depression and other mental illnesses. And this is actually very common for people on the spectrum to be misdiagnosed with these conditions. So I would have been, not even so much that I was misdiagnosed, because I very much do deal with anxiety and depression and PTSD, but it's under the umbrella of the ASD diagnosis. Number three is my inflexibility and inability to change. Now, my boyfriend always likes to say, well, that's a problem. He likes to say that nobody likes change. And I suppose that is true, but my inability is taken to the highest level. I very much need a routine. If that routine is broken, that can cause me to have a meltdown. For example, when I would show up to class in elementary school and my teacher had changed our seat assignments, end of the world, complete meltdown. I do not handle the fact that I was supposed to change seats, be sitting next to somebody new.
Story time. When I was working, I'm not going to say where, and this other person got the position that I've been fulfilling for about 2 months now, they got it over me. And I was like going, what the hell? I've been doing this for 2 months straight or even longer. And now this person's getting the position. I had a meltdown at work. I didn't have a meltdown and like crying, like going, whoa, throwing things like that. No. What a meltdown means is that it was change. It was something traditionally me going back to what I was doing already, but and I was already getting the same pay, so it didn't matter about pay. It was just the responsibility. And so I went back to being whatever I was, and this other person that didn't have as much experience as I had got the position. And I just felt that it was very unfair. Not just that, I was moved back and more change. So it was more about changing back to what I was and just the changing and going back to different times and waking up differently. It was everything. So I had a breakdown in the bathroom and actually went home. And I'm in my 40s. So yeah, autism, it's a real deal.
sitting next to somebody new, have a different, angle of looking at the board, and they have to change me back. I feel like most kids thought like, oh, this is cool, I get to sit in a new seat with a new friend, but to me, it was very cool. Number four, I don't like to socialize, and I have a hard time socializing. I am very much a hermit and an introvert. I love to be alone. In fact, I need my alone time as if I need air. And I know that sounds dramatic, but it really is true. Social situations exhaust me, and I need time to re-energize and recuperate from the social situations. I have a very hard time making eye contact in social situations. When somebody is speaking, I can actually make eye contact with them very well with no problems. But as soon as I start talking, I'm looking like literally anywhere but their eyes. Autism by definition is partly that you struggle in social situations and you struggle with facial expressions, social cues, body language. And when I was looking up the traits of ASD, and that was like one of the main traits, I thought, well, I can't have it because I can socialize just fine. Obviously, like I said, autism is a spectrum, so not everybody's going to have every trait. So I thought, oh, that's just not one of the traits I have. The doctor who diagnosed me brought up that maybe I'm not as good as I think I am in social situations because I said, I think everybody hates me all the time, all through school. I thought everybody hated me. Even now, when I go out, with my boyfriend and some friends, I always ask my boyfriend afterwards, do you think we had a good time? Do you think they just like had a terrible time or they ever don't want to see us again? And he's always like, of course they had a great time. What are you talking about? And that's just kind of my autistic brain not being able to read their body language and facial expressions. Number five is that I sometimes suffer from selective mutism. And what selective mutism is basically your physical inability to speak at some points in time. So for me, it's a very physical response. I can't speak for anybody else, but I like will have the words in my throat and I can like physically feel them, but I cannot push them out of my mouth. And this happens to me when I'm in a meltdown and somebody asks me what's wrong. I want to tell them what's wrong, but I physically cannot. So this is very frustrating for the person wanting to know what's wrong. It's very frustrating for me. Number six is that I'm a very black and white logical thinker. There is no gray areas. It is this or that, and I have a hard time understanding how somebody could think in the gray. And I'm very logical, so sometimes I will misinterpret what somebody's trying to say because I'm thinking of the logical explanation to it. Number seven. My entire life, I've had really severe constipation. I mean, again, I'm really sorry for bringing this up, but I can literally go 2 whole weeks without going number two. It's bad. And then I can have these excruciating stomach aches. And I remember when I was young and I found out that you were supposed to poop every day, I was like,
If you know me, you know my whole entire life I've had nothing but constipation or had a hard time going number. And I still have a hard time going number two. Now I have even a harder time because I'm mostly in the bed. And now I have a hard time with even hemorrhoids. Yes, it's embarrassing, but it's part of being open about our health issues. And part of my health issue is I've always had a hard time going number two. And even at work, I would walk around with a giraffe that was tucked under my arm because I thought I had a blockage. They went in there, didn't have a problem, didn't have anything, only had one pollen, and that was it. That was it. They didn't find anything. And I prayed like hell, too. I mean, not like I prayed to hell. No, I prayed so much that it was like maybe I prayed it away, that it went to hell for being in me in the first place. I don't know. I'm just saying. That's all.